Hi, good morning. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Shall we today pull the pants down on these scientists that are claiming that the world is getting warmer? And it is getting warmer for the reason that man has added too much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Shall we pull their pants down? Shall we put them in checkmate in this video? I think we should. Before we do, I want to just say a big thank you to all our supporters, and we are probably the poorest observatory in the world. You know, we receive the least amount of funding, and yet we deliver the maximum, in my view, amount of truth with regards to the situation of climate change. Well, if you watched the video yesterday, you'll simply know we had gone down to the nitty-gritty of what was causing all these problems. In short, grand solar minimum and a magnetic pole reversal, both enabling more cosmic radiation into our upper atmosphere, changing the behaviour of our jet streams. But they say it's global warming and it's man-made, and we've looked at the amounts of CO2 in previous videos and seen it's minuscule, it's minute, not even touching the scale of anything significant. So we know it's not down to CO2 that is causing the problems in our world, so there must be something else. So if we was in a courtroom right now and I was in front of, or I was allowed to cross-examine a global warming high-end scientist, lots of credentials, I would say to him at this point, would you agree with me that there is a significant amount of flooding taking place around the world, and that flooding has gone above average, and that flooding is caused by rain? Would you agree with that? So, would you agree with the flooding has increased? Would you agree that the flooding is caused by rain? Well, my question is, what is it that causes the rain to fall in the first place? We all understand evaporation of water and the water cycle, like we discussed in yesterday's video. And, you know, evaporation puts the water in the first place in the clouds, so to speak, in simple terms. But what is it that makes it fall from the clouds and in such quantities? Well, if you have a subtropical jet stream carrying a lot of humid, warm air, which is able to hold a lot of water droplets, and then it's suddenly confronted with a polar jet stream, then it's cooled very quickly, and that causes precipitation, rain. And if it's a strong jet stream coming from the, you know, Antarctic or the Arctic regions, then it's going to drop a lot of rain in a short period of time, and it's going to create these flooding events that we're seeing commonly. It's as simple as that. So the big point here is, you're claiming that global warming is taking place, and all these events are a result of that. But the truth is that there is a mechanism which is opposite to what you're claiming that is taking place, that inevitably creates these situations. It's the cooling. And if these events of flooding are occurring more, then there must be more cooling occurring. So I would put it to that person, that scientist, that it's not global warming that's causing this situation, it's global cooling, because the cooling is the actual triggering of the event. And what we're looking at on the screen is glacial and interglacial periods, and you can see we dive in and out of those throughout our history regularly. It should come to no surprise of where we are at the end of any one of these charts. Bit of a silence there, but the reason for that is because I'm hoping that you've got the point. We're going back into a glacial period. Our world is not geared up for this. We're so dependent on the now, and we've not prepared for tomorrow. There is going to be some major events in the forthcoming future, and we will cope. But before we get to the point of where we cope, because we're great at adapting. Human beings have adapted to live under the water in submarines. We've gone into the air like birds with aircraft. We can adapt to any environment. We've even gone out into space. And we will adapt to the next glacial period. But before we do that, there will be scenes that have never been seen before, or witnessed or recorded in history. What we're talking about is events which will change the shape and reality of our lives. It's coming, it's unavoidable. We can see the train approaching us. We are standing on the track of that approaching train. There's the truth that you won't hear or see on any mainstream media network. And this can come about in a very short period of time. I want you to understand that. It is no surprise that the flooding is taking place in latitudes around 30 to 50 degrees. These floods events on the northern and southern hemisphere are happening in those regions, and frequently. Around the equatorial region is drying out. It's because the humid air, does get transported northerly and southerly over the equator to regions where it comes into contact with these polar jet streams. And because they are fragmented right now, and have been for some time, and are getting more fragmented, we're seeing these flooding events. It should come as no surprise at all to anybody on this planet, because if you are looking at the terraform, you can see that the valleys have been carved out by water erosion over thousands and thousands of years, and there's a reason for that. If you build cities in these valleys, they will go underwater at some point. Just because they've not over the last couple of 100 years means nothing to nature and the way this planet has been orbiting our sun for the last millions of years. Everything, when it comes down to nature, is insignificant. There are cycles, and sometimes they're not predictable. If you look at any of these charts, you can see that there are not like a second hand on a clock moving one by one around the circumference of the face of that watch or clock that you're looking at. There are triggering events that we don't really understand, and there are times like we find ourselves right now in double jeopardy, grand solar minimum and a magnetic pole reversal, both equating to one thing: more cosmic radiation, more dislocation of our normal jet streams. As a result, we see more flooding, more droughts, more forest fires. Our technological advancement to this point has come along so quick we cannot cope with the changes, and the system is so reliant today on that technology that we will not cope if there is severe disruptions to it. Let's put it like that. They've got it wrong. They've got it 180 degrees wrong. They're saying global warming, but it's not. It's global cooling. It is the cooling that makes the rain drop from the sky. If they admit that the flooding is more frequent, then the only reason for that flooding is because of those polar jet streams intertwining with those subtropical jet streams, causing those floods. And the same for the droughts and the forest fires that are happening earlier in the season than expected. If they admit that flooding is on the increase, then they have to admit that it is not global warming, it is global cooling. End of story. It is the cooling that makes the water fall from the sky. At the end of the day, that is science and science facts. Guys, link down there if you want to help one of the most purest and most honest observatories in the world, down there in the description. And I'll say what I usually do: you take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.